Bitcoin has been growing since 2013 at a rate of 113% a year. So basically double that. It's the fastest, not Bitcoin, sorry, crypto. So crypto adoption is the fastest adoption of any technology in human history now. And it's growing so fast that people can't get their heads around it. The Bitcoin maximalists are looking at a past. There is no way that Bitcoin can catch up to what is really going on because things are moving too fast. Now, this is all based around network effects. And network effects, basically Metcalfe's law states that the value of a network is essentially the number of nodes in a network and the number of connections between them. Now, Bitcoin has that element, and it's very good. People are highly incentivized to bring new people into the network. But actually, the number of connections on the network between them is still relatively limited. The Lightning layer is being built out. They're nowhere near on NFTs in a meaningful way, although they're working on it. But essentially, the truth is there are more developers working on Ethereum. Its adoption rate is faster than Bitcoin has ever been. It has more developers, more nodes, more use cases than anything we've seen before. It looks more like the internet in that respect. But so let's step back and say, okay, what numbers can we get to? Firstly, I don't think Bitcoin will remain dominant in any way, shape, or form. It will continue to grow. It'll do well. It'll get to its whatever 20 trillion market cap, maybe even goes above that. Fine, all well and good. I'll own some of it, and that's great. The rest of the space is going to dwarf that. And if I look at, let's say, the global equity market, the global bond market, global FX market, well, FX is larger. But, you're talking, these things are like $200 trillion markets. Now, if I continue to follow the extrapolation of the rate of change of adoption of crypto, basically it gets us to 1 billion people by 2024. Now, that could easily be solved just by Facebook DM or central bank digital currencies, which are all crypto, and they will create on-ramps and off-ramps for everybody into all the rest of the crypto world. So we get to 1 billion people by then, and that's lowering the rate of growth from 63% from 113% a year to 83%, just because I don't want to be wildly over-optimistic. Well, you start getting numbers by, let's say, 2020 or 2030, let's say, of $200 trillion for the crypto space, which is logical because it's the size of the securities industry sort of thing. Now, I think all securities are going to go into crypto too. It's going to be bigger than all of this. I think it'll be bigger than all of them put together. But that's basically the magnitude. So we look at it now with, I don't know where it is today, 1 point something trillion market cap. It hit 2 at peak. We've got like 100x from here. I mean, this is the biggest wealth generating machine we're ever going to see, ever. And that's the frustrating thing for me, is the Bitcoin maximalists they're on the wrong narrative. It should be Bitcoin is at the epicenter of this. It is the kind of pristine collateral of this all. And all of this world is being built around it. And this is fantastic. We can all participate in any way we want. Do your own homework, understand where you're taking risk, understand what's less risky. Bitcoin may be less risky. Other things are more risky. That's okay. That's absolutely normal. And this constant attention of this is a scam, that is a scam, is just simply ridiculous. Because basically this whole crypto space is like real-time VC investing. Things fail, things work, people are scammers, and people try their hardest and fail. And that's all part of it. And you size your bet accordingly. And then once you see network adoption taking hold, you can add to your bet, because once you get reasonable network adoption, then you get reasonable assurity that it's going to follow Metcalfe's law, which is basically a logarithmic trend ad infinitum. And it's clear that Ethereum ticks every single box of that. And I'm no Ethereum maximalist either. I think there's so many interesting things coming. We haven't even talked about community tokens and stuff like that. I mean, people have literally, they're trying to live in the present day or the past and assess where this is going. That is the absolute wrong way of doing it. Or they're trying to assume that the world is not an adaptive, complex society where things don't change, and even suboptimal things end up succeeding, much like VHS beat out Betamax in Video Wars, even though it was suboptimal. That is the way of things. It's all about adoption.
Right. And so you've talked about, how, well, you just mentioned, I guess, this concept of community tokens. And you've talked previously about how this upends not just finance, but all business models. It changes fundamentally where value coalesces around communities rather than companies and, stocks and things alike. Can you expand on what's your perspective in regards to community tokens? You're obviously not just about Ethereum and these things. What is a community token in your mind? What are you seeing now? What do you expect in the future?
So if we're entering a world where Metcalfe's law is the most successful business model, then it needs to be applied. So if you look at why that happened is, people like Facebook, Google, Twitter, LinkedIn, I mean, everybody basically learned from Daniel Kahneman, the godfather of behavioral economics, how to apply this to create network effects around platforms. Those platforms became the fastest rise of any businesses to $1 trillion in history, because the business model of network effects means that the network is worth more than all of the cash flows, but in addition, there are behavioral incentives to increase the size of the network. Bitcoin basically came out of that and follows the same law. But then we've then seen a coalescing of power around what is known as influencers. What's an influencer? An influencer is somebody with a large audience online that uses it for whatever purpose. Usually it's a mission. And that we've seen the rise of communities. So communities have driven online all over the place, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on podcasts, whether it's on Twitter, all over the place. Like Twitter has a big FinTwit community or a crypto community. Then we've seen the rise of celebrity influencer business people who have recognized this and have taken it to new levels. So Elon Musk would be the classic example. He built an enormous community by using a mission statement and a sense of purpose, and coalesced a group behind him that followed that. It's pretty much how you control's probably the wrong word, how you organize complex adaptive societies in general. Religion is basically based around exactly the same thing, as is government. So that's what Elon did. And that allowed him to build a more robust business, because the community, as long as he didn't betray the community, they would forgive him for being Elon and his antics and his misdemeanors and his false starts, because they wanted him to succeed. And that gave him basically unlimited access to capital, people who wanted to buy his shares, and his community was so powerful that politicians don't want to stop him, right? That's genius. The other person who did this really well was Chamath. Chamath realized that he had a mission, and his mission was that you're all being screwed and that the whole system needs to be disrupted. Very enticing for the young population. They followed him in their millions, and he's been able to build businesses on the back of it. Cathie Wood also built a business on the back of mission statement, purpose, and community. So these things are really meaningful now. These people have more power than businesses that don't have communities. And that becomes extremely interesting. Now, how do you really organize large groups of people? Well, the other thing missing from the equation outside of the mission statement and the purpose and the kind of rules, societal rules, is money. Once you add money into the equation, you now can organize that society totally. So that's what tokens offer. Society tokens, community tokens, social tokens, whatever you want to call them, creator tokens, are basically a way of organizing and rewarding a community for being the community. So they get to earn, spend, save community tokens that have value to them, and that gives them different benefits.